Phone says 6 o'clock. We'll go ahead and begin. Please join us for the invocation and pledge.
Please rise. Good and gracious Heavenly Father, we just thank you for your blessings that you give us each and every day. Lord, we know that your grace is sufficient. Lord, we just ask you that you watch over those that are suffering and hurting. Lord, we just ask you to be with the family of our first responders that we just lost recently, and that you help those that are needing help to come out and reach out and to someone who can give them some assistance. Lord, we just ask you to look over our military. And Lord, we just thank you for your Son, Jesus Christ. For it's in his name we pray. Amen. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This meeting is called to order. Madam Clerk, can we get a roll call?
Catherine Demont. Here. Goldie. Here. Jansen.
Here.
Meza.
Here.
Nichols.
Here.
Stokes.
Here.
Mayor Hoffman.
Here. Agenda item 240.
I move that we approve the minutes of the regular council meeting held on December 7th, 2020.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion from the council? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. 241.
I move that we approve the minutes of the special council meeting held on December 14th, 2020.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 242.
I move that we approve the minutes of the council briefing held on December 14th, 2020.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Any announcements from council? Ms. Goldie?
I would just like to wish everyone a happy holidays, however you celebrate the holidays, in whatever way. I hope it's wonderful for you and your family and your loved ones. I also want to recognize Bill Mann. I understand that tonight is his last official city council meeting. So we want to thank Bill for his many years of service to the city and wish him well in his next chapter. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
Mr. Meza?
Good evening, everyone. Same thing. I want to wish everyone a happy Christmas, happy New Year's. I hope you guys are safe. Santa Claus visited deck the chairs this weekend, and I attended briefly, and just seeing the joy of the kids was pretty good. And that's one of my favorite events to brag about Jacksonville Beach too, the tourists we have here. And the second thing I just noticed that the bike lane in front of Margaritaville was removed. I don't know if anybody was aware of that. Just wanted to bring it up. All right, thank you.
And I was very excited that the first VIP guest in Jacksonville Beach that I got to escort around was Santa Claus himself. So that was a really fun event. Although we kept Santa distant from the children, we managed to have a really nice time with the kids that were out there at Deck the Chairs. Okay, courtesy of the Florida visitors, we do have some cards, but they're all attached to agenda items unless any more have been received. Good, okay. We'll move on to item 243, financial reports. We want to hear from staff first.
Mayor and Council, these are the monthly financial reports that the CFO provides for City Council consideration. It is also a requirement of City Charter that we provide financial update to the Council on a monthly basis. If you have any questions regarding the documents or the numbers presented therein, CFO Ashley Gossett is here to answer any questions.
Can we get a motion for approval?
I move that we accept the financial reports for the month of November 2020.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on council? Ms. Dumont?
I have a question for Ashley. I figured you came to the meeting, you have to ask me something.
She's a color coordinator.
My question is, it's related to this, is can you give a general summary as to what to date the impact of the pandemic has been on the city finances? Just in general, I know that in the financials, there were
a lot of shortfalls on revenues, as well as some, we haven't spent as much just because in certain areas. So just overall in the big picture sense.
Ashley Dawson, CFO. To answer your question, in fiscal year 2021, we anticipated a decline in tax revenue due to the pandemic, and I can tell you that right now our receipts are tracking with that anticipated reduction. It's kind of early in the fiscal year. We don't receive convention development tax revenues until 2 months away, so in December we expect to receive our first distribution of those dollars, so I can't answer that yet. In general, because we canceled some activities and some sport programs, our parks receipts are a little bit lower for the fiscal year, but again, we kind of planned for that in the start of this fiscal year.
So those adjustments were made during the budget development part.
Yes.
So we're planning for shortfalls this year.
Yes, when we developed the fiscal 21 budget, when we went through the workshops, our discussions were, we were uncertain about kind of the impact of the pandemic, if it would be short-lived or long-lived. So we looked back to our experience with the Great Recession. So we budgeted for a reduction in sales tax revenue and convention development tax revenues. And so we're seeing that reduction in sales tax thus far this year.
Okay, and we plan for, I know that you said that you thought about short-term, long-term. We plan for a long-term impact pandemic, not a short-term pandemic, pick it back up again.
Yeah, so we put some levers into the budget this year. We plan for revenue decreases, but then we also on our spending side kind of put some money into reserve. It's in the budget, but departments don't have the authority to spend that money until they check with the city manager, until we get a kind of greater experience for the fiscal year.
Thank you.
Thank you for being proactive and anticipating some of the shortfalls. Do we have any other questions? Madam Clerk, roll call.
Catherine Golding? Yes. I'm sorry. Catherine Demott?
Yes.
Catherine Golding? Yes. Catherine Jensen?
Yes.
Mesa?
Yes.
Nichols?
Yes.
Stokes?
Yes.
Mayor Hoffman?
Yes. Okay, our next item is the nomination for a second alternate board member of the Board of Adjustments. We're going to give this another shot. I'd like to open the floor for a nominating motion. Ms. Golding?
I move that we appoint Dan Amala to the second alternate Board of Adjustment position.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on the nomination of Dan Amala as the second alternate board member of the Board of Adjustment? That was easy. Roll call?
Catherine Golding? Yes. Jansen?
Yes.
Mesa?
Yes.
Nichols?
Yes.
Stokes?
Yes.
Demott?
Yes.
Mayor Hoffman?
Yes. The next item is the open seat to reappoint or nominate a member for the Community Redevelopment Agency. So open the floor for nominations. Ms. Golding?
I move that we reappoint Francis Pawlowski to the CRA.
Second.
We do have a speaker card. Mrs. Pawlowski, would you like to speak on this motion?
Hello, everybody. Happy holidays. It's Frances Pawlowski, 402 15th Street, CRA member for 8 years. I just wanted to take the opportunity to let you guys know that I am interested in a big advocate of the CRA, being an independent from the council. I know that that is still up for debate, but I do believe that there are stepping stones that are being put in place where the CRA needs someone who has the experience and the expertise as far as what's happened to help explain to the new council people what steps are going forward, what's needed. So I do believe that my history with the board and my advocate mindset on this area would benefit you guys as well. I did try to give you guys a heads up of my interest by email. Although I only got one response from you all, I'm hearing multiple different responses to it. I did talk to the city about it earlier this week, I believe it was this week, right? About how the new process is a little hard for us to reach out to you in constituents. They have it where I cannot reach out to you individually anymore. It's a big group. I sent it on Friday, you guys didn't get it till Monday. So there is something the city is working on with that. So if you did not get my email with my interest in being on the board before your last meeting, I do apologize. I just assumed that was going to be good enough versus coming to the meeting last time. So I'm sorry if you didn't think I was interested beforehand. So anyway, I just wanted to say hi, thank you for your consideration. I do believe that the CRA has potential to add value to your reputations to get more stuff done. Just right there on the cusp of becoming bright. So thank you for your consideration.
Thank you for your service to the CRA. Is there any other discussion on the nomination of Frances Pawlowski? Mr. Nichols?
I served on the board with Frances for 4 years, and she is really good at it, and I think it was she performed her duties well. However, I feel that there's qualified people in the community that would like to be on the board, and I think 2 terms is a sufficient amount of time for somebody to be on there. I'm going to be voting no for that reason, and that reason only.
Any other discussion? Roll call vote for the reappointment of Frances Pawlowski to the Community Redevelopment Agency.
Councilmember Jansen,
Yes.
Mesa,
Yes.
Nichols,
No.
Stokes,
Yes.
Tamont,
Yes.
Goldie. Yes. Mayor Hoffman.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Frances. We have one remaining vacancy on the Community Redevelopment Agency, so we need a nomination. Mr. Nichols?
I'd like to nominate David McGraw for the position.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Ms. Golding and Ms. Dumont, I don't know if you were trying to make nominations. You have discussion on this item? Okay. We have a motion on the floor, so we have to have discussion on that motion.
Point of order.
Yes.
We've been doing this, that we put all the nominees up, and then we select which nominees.
Well, in this case, we have a motion on the floor.
Right, and that's what we know. If we do
We've never done this the same way twice. Mr. Nichols, would you like to withdraw your nomination so we can do it in an open floor nomination style?
No, we can go ahead and vote on this one, just like we did on the previous one.
Okay, does anyone have any, is any city attorney? Okay, so, go ahead.
Yeah, if you have a pending motion, you have to vote on the motion.
Is there any discussion on the nomination of Mr. McGraw? Ms. Golding, you're like so long, or would you like to discuss this?
Well, I guess I don't understand because in the past, like Mr. Marlis said, we usually can have multiple nominations and then the council members vote on the board appointee that they prefer. So I guess I'm a little bit confused.
Ms. Dumont?
I'm going to vote no on this, and I recommend that everybody else vote no on this because our practice has been you put up the people that you think you want on the board, and then you figure out who gets the majority of the council vote. So I will be voting no on this.
Any other discussion on this motion?
I'll withdraw my motion.
Okay, so if we're going to go back to, thank you, Mr. Nichols, if we're going to go back to open floor for nominations, I'll open the floor for nominations. Do not make it in the form of a motion. Because as soon as you make it in the form of a motion, which is what happened last time when we had 2 motions on the floor, as soon as you make it in the form of a motion, that's the only motion that can stand. So I'm going to open the floor for nominations. I'm going to call on everybody whose light is on. Everything that is red will be a nominee for this open position. And then when we do the roll call vote, you will say the name of the candidate that you would like to support. Everybody good?
And then we'll discuss them.
Yes, well, once we close the floor for nominations, we can discuss them and then we'll go to vote. Good? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and allow Mr. Nichols to be the first nomination.
David McGraw.
Ms. Golding?
I nominate Melissa Westerman.
Ms. Dumont?
I nominate Mr. Lanningham.
Is there any other nominations? We have 3 nominees for 1 open seat. So I'm going to close the floor for nominations. Now we can discuss candidates. Ms. Golding?
I just wanted to explain my reason behind nominating Ms. Westerman. I have several reasons. When we interviewed her recently, She mentioned that she owns a boutique in Ponte Vedra and that she really did not feel that Jack's Beach was a good option for them. And I feel that her small business experience with Jack's Beach would be very important to have on the CRA, especially because we would like to bring some boutique businesses into our downtown area. Also, she has a financial background, and I think that that both of those things make her a good candidate for the CRA. Also, I did speak with the chair of the CRA and discussed what were some of the needs of the CRA at this time, and discussed some of the candidates, and he agreed that he felt that she would be a good candidate for the CRA.
Thank you, Mr. Nichols.
I've known David McGraw for several years. He's a very smart guy. He has his business and his residence in Jacksonville Beach, and he is highly motivated, has been trying to get on the board for a couple of years and become active, and I think he'll do an outstanding job.
Ms. Dumont?
I nominated Mr. Lanningham, I still have Western in my head, Lanningham, Mr. Lanningham. Mr. Lanningham, because he is a real estate appraisal and broker, he deals with real estate and finances, and I think he really has a lot that he could add to what our CRA is doing, and the CRA was his first selection.
Revisit, Mr. Nichols?
Just really quick, and then through his interview process, everybody voted that he was acceptable to be on the CRA as well.
Is there any other discussion, questions? Okay, so we have McGraw, Westerman, and Langham are the options. So we'll do a roll call vote, and when your name is called, please answer with the nominee of your choice. Madam Clerk?
Councilmember Mesa,
McGraw.
Nichols,
McGraw.
Stokes,
Westerman.
Demott,
Lanningham,
Golding, Westerman, Jansen,
McGraw.
Mayor Hoffman.
McGraw. Okay, David McGraw will be the new appointee to the Community Redevelopment Agency. I think the other two candidates were, they were all excellent candidates, I believe, and all really great people that I think we should continue to keep on the list for future potential board membership. So I think that we have a running start into our next board vacancies when they should arise. Item 246. Staff, would you like to report on item 246?
Yes, I would. Mayor and council, this next item is actually similar to one that you saw at the start of the pandemic. And this is a request for an extension by one extra day for the Great Atlantic Music Festival. Typically for this time of year, we would only allow the one-day event, but the sponsor for this particular event is asking for a one-time exemption in order to do 2 days for their event. They are anticipating that Springing the Blues will likely be canceled again this upcoming year due to the COVID-19 pandemic, and we look to make the Great Atlantic Festival their signature event for the season. We do have our Recreation and Parks Director for TVs this year if you have any questions about the event, the application, or anything else.
Motion?
I move we approve a one-time exception to the special events policy to allow the Great Atlantic Music Festival to include one additional day, Sunday, June 13th, 2021, to the event currently scheduled on June 12th, 2021, contingent on the cancellation of the Seawalk Music Festival.
Second.
Is there any discussion from council? Roll call?
Councilmember Nichols,
Yes.
Stokes,
Yes.
Demott,
yes.
Golding, yes, Jansen,
Yes.
Mesa,
Yes.
Mayor Hoffman.
Yes. Item 247, staff report?
Mayor and council, this next item is looking to award an RFQ for engineering services for Beaches Energy Services. Just like the Public Works Department, Beaches Energy does create a stable of engineering firms with which they can do contractual services over the course of multiple years. This particular year, they're looking to award to 3 different consultants for electrical engineering and consulting services. The information identifies the 3 firms. We do have Beaches Energy Services Director Alan Putnam here in the event that you have any questions on the firms.
Seeking a motion on this item?
I move that we award the RFQ 10-1920 to Fred Wilson and Associates, Burns and McDonald, and Lagos Engineering and Engineering Services.
Second?
So a motion and a second. Is there any discussion from the council? Mr. Stokes?
I just have one quick question, because I didn't have the 2020 budget in front of me. In 2020, we spent approximately just under $200,000 in professional legal fees for engineering services. In 2021, we had $240,000 budgeted. What was the budget for 2020, and did we come in over, under?
No, I wouldn't have that information available. I'm sure we spent probably the majority of that money. These firms are used to supplement our workforce with their expertise. I don't care what size utility you are, whether you're JA, FPL, or us. You don't have the expertise in the house, so everybody uses to supplement. We generally spend the entire budget that we do have, and it's also based on what we think we have coming up each year, based on our capital. I'd have to get that information for you specifically.
For the record, can you state your name and position?
Sorry.
Can you state your name and position?
I'm sorry.
For the formal record. Alan Putnam, Beaches Energy Services. Thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Putnam? Roll call vote.
Councilmember Stokes?
Yes.
Lamont?
Yes.
Golding? Yes. Jansen?
Yes.
Mesa?
Yes.
Nichols?
Yes.
Mayor Hoffman?
Yes. Next item is ordinance. Madam Clerk, if you could read the ordinance by title.
An ordinance by the City of Jacksonville Beach, Florida, instituting a temporary moratorium on the commercial rental and lease and use of rented and leased electrical personal assistive mobility devices, micro-mobility devices, and motorized scooters, providing for legislative findings, designation of a temporary moratorium, conflicting ordinances, severability, enforcement, and an effective date.
This ordinance is before the council for a public hearing and consideration on a single reading. I will now open the public hearing on ordinance number 2020-8157. We have some speaker cards. We'll start with those in favor of the ordinance, and since the ordinance is a moratorium, I'm assuming that the 4 speaker cards I have are against. If I'm misunderstanding anything, please wave your hand. Is there anyone here to speak in favor of the moratorium? Okay, then those who wish to speak in opposition to the moratorium, we'll start with Michael Bellingham. Did I get that even?
Belange.
Belange, that was my second choice. All right, Mr. Belange, you'll have 3 minutes. Please start by giving us your name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes to address the council.
Yes, my name is Mike Belange. I'm a local attorney in town. I'm sorry, what did you ask for?
Address.
Address. Well, my address is at 8105 Point Meadows Drive, Jackson, Florida. I'm voting, I'm asking the request to actually deny the moratorium passing. I actually know Mr. DeWitt technically here as well. He's one of the managers of the company that's been renting these out. I think not only is it moving with the times of mobile units and scooters, it's good for the environment, the local economy, especially during the pandemic. Rental businesses and the beach businesses took a great hit. Luckily, Mr. DeWitt has been able to survive through this period, and with businesses such as this that have sprung up in the Jacksonville location. With all the resorts and everything that's opening up, we've been in contact, and I've worked with them and spoke with them regarding this business, and all of them really been on board with with bringing this, because they all think it's beneficial to the community, not just for the economy, but also just transportation in general and helping get people around in the city. I did see in the moratorium documents that there was, I guess, some officers with complaints about scooters being left places and concerns about that, but I would really ask what evidence would you have showing that that's actually a consistent problem. I think that's just something that's been thrown out there by maybe a few select citizens. I know there was a petition that was just launched this last Friday that within a few days already have near 500, at least last time I checked, people in favor of the electric scooters. I don't think there's a big concern as far or really a serious issue with those concerns, as that all these scooters, and I know Mr. DeWitt and some of the other parts will be able to elaborate on this a little bit more detail, but they're able to be tracked. They have GPS on them. I've been there firsthand where you're able to monitor it, and if you see that the scooters are being left in places that they're not designated to be, that they're immediately addressed and picked up and put back to where they're supposed to be. The customers are signing and also reading over rules of what they're supposed to do, and they also do get charged for leaving, not returning them in the proper place. So there's a lot of things in place to make sure that this is run efficiently. Mr. DeWitt is one of the owners of Beach Life Rentals, been in the area for over 10 years, and is the person that we really should have a partnership with for the city to really roll this out and see how things can develop and work together, I think, to instead of stopping business, but really helping work together to make sure that it thrives. I don't really see a reason for a moratorium. All right, thank you.
Disregard the clock that says you have 11 hours.
That's what I was going with. Mayor, I'm sorry to disturb you, but the clock doesn't show 3 minutes to the speaker.
I know, I'm aware. You've got the iPhone going over here.
Yeah, I showed 11 hours.
It's on some menu situation, so we're just going to not use that clock this time. Our next speaker card is Mr. Jack Jones. I'm going to come to the podium and state your name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes to address council.
I will do that, but before my time starts, I just want to speak on behalf of lots of people and lots of businesses and thank Bill for all his service, because I know when I came here as a businessman a number of years ago and I didn't know what I was talking about, and he never made me feel that way, so thanks to Bill. My name is Jack Jones. I live at 411 1st Street South. I also own Marita's Italian Ice, which is at 393 3rd Street North. So I have probably the shortest commute of anybody that you know. So this whole business district, where we are right now, is where I live and work. This is my world right here. So I walk and ride my bike to work every day, and I take note of everything that's going on around here, and I know each of you as you enter the building and go. And we've got, and I know some of you are in your seats here because you know that there's work to do here in Jack's Beach. And I believe that too. And so the first day that I was walking to work and I saw these scooters, I thought, man, good idea. That's awesome. This is not only a fun thing, it looks fun, I want to go do it, but it also serves as a destination kind of thing. And with the future of our festivals and moonlight movies and all that stuff kind of uncertain at this point, anything that we can do for a destination here and encourage people to come to Jack's Beach is great. Okay, super idea. But let's face it, when running city government and civics, fun is not the only determining factor. Just because something's fun doesn't mean it's awesome for everybody, right? But I will tell you that these scooters will be an awesome thing and already are for my business. All the festivals that we didn't have, my walk-up business, because of the pier, is a fraction of what it used to be. These scooters can serve as a link to all our businesses here in Jack's Beach. It's a hike. We have, we have a lot of businesses that aren't in business anymore and other people hanging on by their fingernails. Anything that we can do to help businesses and help link them together and get customers from one place to the next place, It's a great idea. I would hate to see this go away and not come back. I'm not for the moratorium, but I think they're a really, really good idea on a number of fronts. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Kurt DeWitt?
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for letting me speak. And as Mr. Belanger said, I am Kurt DeWitt. I am at 618 5th Street in Neptune Beach. I am the owner of Beach Life Rentals. I also own a couple other businesses, Salt Air Motel, which we're currently renovating, which I'm sure you all are going to be very happy to see be done here soon. So am I. But the most recent thing that we have been doing is we've introduced the scooters to the beaches area. It's not something I thought I was going to do, but I was presented with an opportunity, and that opportunity has been very good. I did not know the demand was going to be so high, and it is actually something that I've been very happily surprised that there are a lot of people that are in favor. As stated earlier, we had a petition that we rolled out Friday, and we've had over 500 people say that they would love to see it here for many reasons. Like Mr. Jones said, it helps local businesses. People want to do it because it is fun. A couple of things that I want to point out that and I'm sure everybody has questions, and as everybody probably is aware, I've been emailing and in communication with the city council and the mayor and the rest of the city. But we've been trying to stay, we have been staying on top of managing everything. Right now, there's actually somebody sitting next to a computer watching all of the rentals to make sure if anybody has any issues, we can go take care of them. If a rental is left outside of the return zone, first thing, we try to reach out to that person and tell them before they get too far, hey, you left that outside of the return zone. You're going to be charged a $20 parking fee unless you return it. We always try to give the people the opportunity because it's new and they don't know all the rules. And I'm not here just to make money. I'm here to provide. I own Beach Life Rentals. Literally, my slogan is for a good time, call 584 rent. So I'm here to make sure people have fun first and foremost in our city. We have several employees that we've been able to keep on during the winter because the obviously winter time is slower for my business. It's a rental business, and the beach is slowed down when it gets cold. I've been able to keep 2 employees, including an extra manager, and hire an extra employee for maintenance and just monitoring. And we're actually going to hire another employee next week. So I really hope I don't have to tell him he doesn't have a job Christmas weekend, but obviously I understand that it is things that we vote for in the city, and we understand that a moratorium doesn't mean it's going forever, but I am hoping that we don't have to pass this moratorium because we are here to work with the city, and we've had open communication to make sure that anything that needs to be addressed we can do as fast as possible. And so far I feel like we've done a really good job of making sure that everybody is happy and safe and for the most part just communicating. So I believe that's everything. Like I said, obviously if you have questions, I'm here, so please let me know. But I will stand down for now. So.
Thank you, Mr. DeWitt.
Thank you.
Zach Krikorian? Can you give us your name and address? You have 3 minutes.
Hello, everyone. Zach Krikorian. I live at 346 Southwest 8th Ave in Boynton Beach, Florida. I'm the regional manager for Ride Fit, the electric scooter provider for Kurt and the town. I just wanted to say, as far as any of the concerns go for the scooters, I think they're totally valid. In fact, that's our complete reason we started this business. We've been manufacturing electric scooters and skateboards, but most recently in the last 3 or 4 years, scooters for all the big companies, Bird, Lime, any major company you've heard of. And we saw the demand was awesome. You know, people love these, but we also saw some of the downsides of them, some of the clutter they cause in the city, people trashing them, local business owners, local people not liking them because they got left everywhere. So our business was literally designed to take all that away. And from the software we have and from our back end, and we spent quite a bit of research and development and money into our software to ensure that those things don't happen. And we have everything in place to kind of negate those things from happening. And not only that, our business model is, instead of, being this Silicon Valley company that comes in and dumps scooters off in the city and goes away, we partner with local businesses, and not just any local business. We do a ton of work and a ton of research into businesses that have been in the community, that have a good reputation, that are staples of the community, who honestly actually care about what's going on, that care if they get dumped off, that care if, somebody doesn't know how to ride it, or if they get left in front of, the Ritas, or, that local business might not like it, because honestly, no other company cares, right? They don't care what happens to them. They want to collect their money and move on. With our business model, the majority of the money stays local, and it's all facilitated by our local business operators. Our really only goal is to provide a quality product and help with the software. And while we are a small business ourselves, we have the software and the capability to tailor it to Jacksonville Beach. So if you guys have specific things you want in our app, specific things that you want as far as, the boardwalk, I know that's been a big thing about not riding on the boardwalk, different, rules that you guys want to have, we're open to that. We're open to that communication, which is why I came up here today. Kurt's done an unbelievable job. Him and his team have been great, and we've had a ton of success. There's been great demand here. We've got a great feedback from the city, and I think not only the people who come here to visit, but the locals too have really enjoyed it. So again, like Kurt said, if you guys have any questions, if you need anything from us, we're here to support you guys. And other than that, we've had great success. So we hope to see it continue. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Purporting. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak against or for the ordinance? Public hearing is closed. Seeking a motion.
I move we adopt ordinance number 2020-8157 as an emergency measure per section 255 of the City Code of Ordinances on the first reading, instituting a temporary moratorium on commercially leased or rented electric personal assistive mobility devices, micromobility devices, and motorized scooters in the city.
Second?
You have a motion and a second. Staff, would you like to make a presentation, or would you just prefer to respond to questions?
I'll be glad to do both. I can respond to questions first, and then anything that I haven't answered, I'll fill in the blanks. I have a folder full of information.
Sounds good. Mr. Jansen?
Yeah, so a couple of things come to mind. Prior to being inducted into council in November, we were privileged to watch the council briefing on some of the findings of this business, and I think it's only fair that, I think the key word of this moratorium is that it's temporary, and that it would only be fair for the new council members to have a little bit more time to kind of dive into this. And I also think that it would be irresponsible for us as a city to just blindly adopt it, although I did receive an email from Mr. DeWitt, and I read it twice. It was lengthy, and I think he's doing a fantastic job. He's being a responsible business owner. That's not to say the next person that rolls in here is going to do the same thing. So I think we need to take a look at what regulations, if any, or to what extent we need to have with a business such as this.
Thank you, Mr. Jansen. Mr. Method?
Yes, I have a couple of questions for Mr. Ambrosio here. If this was to pass, how long will it last? And the other thing too, if it doesn't pass, is there a way we can work with the business and create solutions if they continue to rent it out?
Certainly. So for the first question, the answer is that if this temporary moratorium should pass by the council, it'll last 12 months, or at the time, or up until the time that this council adopts a permanent ordinance on this issue, whichever comes sooner. So if the departments and I were to finalize an ordinance, if that's what the council directs us to do, and presents it to the council, say in 90 to 100 days, then the council would go through the two-step process of approving that ordinance. So that obviously would be maybe around a 4-month period, obviously a lot less than the 12-month maximum. So there's a 12-month maximum as it's currently drafted, but it could be less. And then your second question was?
Well, if it doesn't pass, and let's say we give Kirk the
Yes.
ability to run it out, can you work something out?
Right, so it would take more than just me to comment on that, because there's many important personnel and department directors and Mike, but the answer is yes, we could work something out with Mr. DeWitt, and this ordinance really isn't directed at Mr. DeWitt's operations at all. It's the concept of the users in the city, and I know Mr. DeWitt's been a fine business partner in the city, and he's doing a great job, but there's many more concerns about the devices being operated in the city than just working with Mr. DeWitt. I mean, there's police department and safety and road usage concerns that go well beyond Mr. DeWitt's capability of operating this business properly. So there would be, we could work with him, but there's a lot of departments that need to look into it.
To add on to what the city attorney just said, I'd just like to remind the council that the implementation of a moratorium and the creation of an ordinance to regulate the leasing of e-scooter or micromobility devices are two separate and discrete actions. Regardless of the action that you take on the moratorium here tonight, it is still staff's intention to continue working with council and with staff to create appropriate regulation for this particular business model, or business models, plural. It's really the leasing or rental of these devices. So I believe we currently have a briefing scheduled at the second briefing in February to come back to council to continue that conversation, regardless of what happens here tonight.
Do you have any other questions, Mr. Manager?
I do. A couple things. My concerns are safety. I've noticed multiple dividers being irresponsible. As a matter of fact, a couple months ago, I almost hit one at night. Ran a stop sign right on First Avenue South and 2nd Street, across from McDonald's. I saw the lights going across the street, and I was slamming my brakes because they weren't paying attention. Those are the concerns I have. The other one is they continue to go up the garage ramp on 3rd Avenue North and 2nd Street. They come down full speed and don't pay attention to the cars that are coming out. I've been at an establishment across the street where they come in, go into the parking lot and almost line with the cars. I know the police officers can't be around everywhere. Is there a way to educate the riders more on respecting the cars? Obviously, this is a bikeable community, and we want people to be safe. But I know when you disregard a stop sign, that's kind of dangerous. And is there a way that on the geomap to actually add streets that gives you, like a geomap that gives you the streets that you could go into and highlight the streets that you're not allowed to go into? And also, I would like to make anything west of 3rd Street not allowable for these scooters out. Those are just my 2 cents. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Meza. Mr. Stokes?
Well, since we have the people here, I'd say go ahead and geomap that garage so people can't go up and down that anymore. That's an easy fix there. For full disclosure, I have my own personal scooter. I use it like a bicycle. It's great when I don't feel like pedaling and going around to the beach, going around the beach community. I use it. When the weather gets better, I'm sure I will use it to come up here to city council meetings. The moratorium, just to be clear for everybody, the moratorium doesn't restrict personal use, so I'll still be allowed to use mine. But for me, I can't consciously vote to restrict something that I use and that is legal for me to use and restrict somebody else from renting one in the city. We talked about a lot of the safety issues that's been talked about. Well, these operate in the same section in ordinances of bicycles. A lot of the same issues that we're talking about are bicycle-related issues as well. And we're not up here putting a moratorium on bicycles. I see bicyclists running stop signs all the time. See them doing a lot of the same things that these e-scooters do, but suddenly the e-scooter is the one that's in trouble. I can't support that. I asked, we've had 0 citations involving these devices so far. I understand, use it with alcohol. It should be treated the same like we treat somebody biking under the influence, and now it's said, we can do that. We talked about, the return rate earlier. There are some that get left out, but there is a fee, and I think that's good. I like this system over Bird. I've ridden them all, Bird, the Uber one, and the Lime. This system is much better for a city because it maintains where they are. They can't be left on street corners. Sorry, I have a lot here, and I apologize. In the moratorium, it talks about one of the reasons why we're putting this in is the company intends to get more. What if they decide to just stay with what they have? Don't get more. Stay with what they have. Then is the moratorium still needed? Could we halt further scooter development, but keep what we have allowed to operate to learn the kinks? Because without these on the streets, I don't know that we're going to know all the issues that they cause. We're going to have the issues that personal riders like myself face, but what about the issues that if we don't have them out, we don't know all the issues that they'll face. Also, these same companies rent bikes. It seems to me that the agreement to rent one of these e-scooters is a lot more stringent than that to rent a bike. What about renting a bike and biking with alcohol? That's a problem too. That's against the rules. There's a lot of similarities between bikes, e-scooters, electric bicycles was brought up in the briefing. All these things kind of go together. Quick question for our city attorney. Did you happen to get the rider agreement?
No, I haven't seen that.
Okay. One thing that was brought up was municipality being liable. Obviously I'm not a legal expert, but in here it does say that any municipality will be held harmless, indemnified from any accident that happens. So it seems to me that we could be pretty much off the hook for an accident that happened within the city, pothole, those kind of things. That was an issue. And then we talked about, lighting, bikes go around without lights. These e-scooters have lights. To me, there's a lot of positives to these e-scooters in the city. I don't want us to see have Birds and Limes and Uber scooters everywhere, but the way this system operates, I do like, and I would like to see it fleshed out in a positive manner and not go strictly to a moratorium until we can figure it out, because I don't think we're going to be able to figure it out without the scooter on the street. I might have something else, so I will hop off.
Is there anything in Mr. Stokes' comments that you wanted to address?
Well, when I provide the council with all the information I have, I think I'll be answering many of Mr. Mesa's and Mr. Stokes' questions.
Thank you. Mr. Mesa, quick revisit?
Yes, also, is my mic working? Yeah. Okay, well, that's not working on here. I also want to echo what Mr. Chet's saying here. And in addition to, I personally don't want to hinder a business, especially after the year businesses have had this year. I think if we could slow down the growth of the scooters until we figure something out, that would be ideal. We're going into February, once the weather starts turning, the beaches start picking up. Businesses here miss the entire season. I would hate to see this business miss the season if this moratorium passes, since it could take up to 12 months. And I think, I've ridden scooters before in downtown Orlando, and you can just leave them everywhere. And the system they're running here, it's pretty good, and it's well operated. unfortunately, you're gonna have riders that don't follow the rules. And I think that's where it's gonna take an effort, not just from them, but possibly the police officers. And I understand they have a lot going on during the day and at night, especially in the spring and the summer. That is just my opinion.
Ms. Yvonne?
Thank you. It sounds like you have a wonderfully run business, but what we are voting on tonight is a moratorium which would impact your business. But your business also sounds like it's well-run. The processes are great and all of that. What we're looking at trying to do is for the city to develop processes and systems in place like the ones that you currently have. Because without a moratorium, anyone can open up an e-scooter business and not have all of those wonderful mechanisms that you currently have in place. As one of you noted, other companies just don't care. And if we were to put some kind of a stopgap where you get to be the only one operating, then we formulate a monopoly, and we can't do that either. The number one goal of any government, what comes first, is safety. And for us, it's safety of our residents. And we can't say that we have safety of our residents until we have some kind of policies or framework in place to ensure that any business that wants to open up and rent e-scooters or any other personal mobility devices, and they can really range, if we don't have those policies in place, we can't tell them how they can or cannot run their businesses. So they can leave them all over the city. They can they can't ride them on the boardwalk because there's an ordinance against riding things on the boardwalk, but they can ride them at other places west of 3rd. And so this is really to give us a chance to be able to put a framework in place so you can operate your business as well as any other business that wants to come in and thinks that it can compete with you in a way that our citizens remain safe.
And Ms. Ms. Golding?
I won't reiterate what Ms. Dumont just said, but she did express some of my same feelings, and that is that Mr. DeWitt has been very responsive. He's been working really well with the city. Very impressed with the model that you guys have. My biggest concern is with other businesses that may want to come in and we don't have in place the processes and the rules and that sort of thing. I really don't want to penalize a business that exists, that currently exists. So I don't know what we could do there, and I'd like to see if the city attorney could make any recommendations, if there's anything we can do to work with Mr. DeWitt while we work on this. But I am definitely concerned about not closing the doors while we get this sorted out. And the other thing I would say is that I would hope that we could put something in place before the season kicks in. That should be our goal, because that's when the business is really going to kick in. And so I would hope that we would not spend 12 months. And I know the city attorney has a lot on his plate and there's a lot going on, but I would hope that we could try to get something done as quickly as possible.
Just 1 second, Mr. Nichols. Can you, Mr. Ambrosio, can you address that? A couple of people have raised that this is a moratorium that would cease this current business's operations as well as prohibit any new businesses from coming in. However, we could modify this that it would be new businesses only and it wouldn't affect the current business. Is that correct?
Can I ask a question? Can I make my statement before?
Oh, sure, go ahead.
I guess my question for Chris is that can we create an effective date of May 1st for this ordinance or this moratorium to begin? And so I believe that'll keep other people from wanting to come in while there's a pending moratorium coming on, and that you'll do your best to have a code ordinance to us for approval by May 1st, and then also reduce the 12 months to an 8-month, so it'll actually go through the end of the year. So it'll just delay the effective date, and so hopefully we'll be able to solve the issue between that time, and it won't affect Mr. DeWitt's business, which I think has done, you've done an amazing job. I appreciate you working with the city on that.
Yeah. So, yes, this goes very far beyond the city attorney's office. So don't think that the 12 months is because the city attorney is unable to draft an ordinance. I can draft that in 24 hours. The issue is that this is a safety concern. It came to our attention because from City Hall, we have the best observation point where we have observed dozens and dozens of people not complying with traffic control devices and stop signs, for example, riding in the opposite direction of traffic, riding them northbound and southbound lane and vice versa. Seeing children that are absolutely under the age of 16 driving them. Never once have we seen a user wearing a helmet, and the Florida law is that anyone under the age of 16 should be wearing a helmet. I've personally seen over 10 children, I would say, that are definitely under 16 and they're not wearing a helmet. I've seen tandem riding. But just let me first say, I know Mr. DeWitt is doing a great job, and he's been doing a great job as a businessman in our community. Nobody wants to ride these more than I do. And anything with wheels, I will ride it, and we're allowed, I'll race it. But I'm your city attorney, so I'm trying to do what's right for the city council. We can draft we can revise this ordinance if the council would like to not place a moratorium on Mr. DeWitt's current business. And I'm saying just Mr. DeWitt because according to our police department, he's the only vendor in our jurisdiction that is operating. And we've checked the local bike stores, they're not operating, providing them through lease or rental. Let me provide council with some of the information that I have so that you see the conditions and problems and issues that we're so concerned about, and hopefully it'll answer some of the council members' questions, why I'm a little hesitant to revise this moratorium. But let me go through some of the information, but also let me add that the attorney for Neptune Beach and the attorney for Atlantic Beach told me to advise the council that their council, Atlantic Beach Commission, supports the moratorium. By the way, they took my moratorium and basically are going to be utilizing my language. Supports the moratorium, gave direction to staff that Atlantic Beach on December 14th meeting to bring the ordinance forward to the council for January 11th. Neptune Beach passed the moratorium 5-0 and will have their second reading on January 4th. So those jurisdiction attorneys asked me to share that with you. So some of the issues that we have, and again, this is mostly from my police department and Mike and I and us looking at it and meeting, thinking it through, things we've observed, problems that our police department has. Number one, I would say the safety concerns of the users and the way that we've observed them being operated on our streets, on our sidewalks, in our park here downtown, on the boardwalk area, and around the parking lots in terms of city property. We've seen a lot of unsafe use. Again, we've witnessed it from our different window viewpoints around City Hall, through all of the intersections. Police department officers have reported the same to us. Major safety concerns about dangerous user behavior on the bikes. We've seen examples of a woman with an infant on her back riding the skateboard. Again, no helmet. We've seen adults with minors, very small children, also standing on the bike, operating the bike together. We've never seen a user wearing a helmet, and some of the points I made again, going against traffic, zooming in and out around Latham Plaza, up and down the boardwalk, on and off the sidewalk. So, it's just caught our police department completely off guard. And it's happened throughout cities, and I'm going to give you some research from 6-7 cities I've done. It just caught us off guard. It happened suddenly. Our police department, we don't have anything on the books and to enable our police department to make this safe for our community, for our guests and our residents. So we need police department and safety personnel to look into this, and what they need to help guide me, tell me, how can we get something in our code that's going to help our police department make people safe and make our roadways safe. So that's the number one concern. Some of the information we've researched, and this is sort of in the past few years, a new situation for a lot of municipalities. These e-scooters and micromobility devices starting to come into cities. So we've looked at Virginia, we've looked at California, We looked at Texas, Oregon, Colorado, Florida. So some of the concepts that we see is, one, first of all, under safety for Florida statute, that under the age of 16, an operator may not operate, ride, or be propelled without wearing a helmet. So we could start with our law to model that type of safety concern. Again, the city code has nothing on the books for that. There are cities that limit the number of permitted vendors in their community, and I would say that that's really relevant for us because, thankfully, Mr. DeWitt has found this to be a lucrative business. Well, there's going to be someone right behind him who also wants to engage in making money and, have a lucrative business. So we have no limit on the number of permitted vendors in our community. As suddenly as this came upon us, we could suddenly have 10 vendors because we have no limitation once they realize there's money to be made. Many cities have a permit fee. We don't have that. Many cities have an application fee that's required. Many cities have safety requirements, and some of the safety requirements involve safety training. Mr. Meza was asking about that. Some cities require safety training and education that the vendor would be required to provide. From what we've seen, observed, in terms of the users in our community, they're not acting in a very safe way, in some cases. In some cases, they're acting in a very hazardous way, running through stop signs. So we don't know what the extent of the safety or training or education is of some of these users, but that's an important aspect for most of these municipalities in these 6 or 7 states. Many cities require a license from the vendor. We don't require that. And traffic and operation control code regulations would be on the books that those users should be made aware of in terms of operating them in our jurisdiction. There's also some cities that authorize the manager to monitor and to decrease the fleet size of some vendors with no control on the fleet size. It looks like for some of these larger cities in America, the fleet size gets to be over 1,000 per vendor. So you can have 3 to 8 vendors, each with 1,000. So you can have thousands of scooters, but some cities allow the manager to monitor and require a decrease in the fleet size or a cap on the fleet size. There's also, I think, a very valid point to make certain slow zones, mandatory slow zones, and that speaks to what Mr. Meza was asking about particular regions or areas, limit the use area to particular blocks of our city, perhaps not go west of 3rd, as Mr. Meza suggested, and also mandate slow zones. Another requirement some cities have are the vendor is required to report safety issues and accidents to the city so that they work with us to provide us with critical information that our police department and our, and now I guess Jacksonville Fire Rescue would be able to utilize in some way to hopefully make safer use and for our residents and our guests and for the users. There is a city that requires a bond of the vendor to help pay for the abandoned devices that are left in public places and right of way. And the speakers tonight made a good point about how they regulate the bikes that are left in certain places, how they track that. I know that the scooters have GPS devices, that's all important. But I would say that our departments and staff and the council would want to consider what the costs and implications are for the city to have to deal with any abandoned scooters in public places, the safety hazard that it may create. How do we handle those bikes? How do we work with the vendor? Bikes, the scooters. How do we work with the vendor to retrieve those, return those, the cost that's associated with that, the manner on how we do that. So these are, and there's other cities that charge surcharges and fees. So in terms of the city revenue that may be needed to engage in some of these programs and enact some of these services, there are surcharges and fees that could be associated with the permitting, per license and permit fees. So there are those considerations that the city would have to take on as well. So you see, there's a lot to it. It's not just, can Mr. DeWitt's business continue to operate? And we all want to see him to continue and operate, but we have a lot of things to consider as a municipality, of a beach city, that we're going to have a lot of tourists, as we all know, and there's going to be a lot of people using these. And as Mr. DeWitt's business continues to grow and get more popular, we need to try to form some regulations here. The police department's already expressed to me that they're concerned with what they have to see and deal with as it is. So, I'll be glad to work on revised language, but that doesn't help me help my police department. It keeps the police department officers still contacting me. Chris, what do? We just had, 4 of them run through another stop sign in the middle of the day, and that's really, really concerning to them. So, but anyhow, that's some of the information to share with council, and I'd be glad to answer more questions if I can. I'll be glad to work on the temporary moratorium language if you so direct me to.
Thank you, Mr. Ambrosio. Mr. Mon?
Thank you. Nice summary. I do have a question about the actual wording in the moratorium. It says per violation, and I don't know what a violation is. Would the violation be for business that's open, for e-scooter rented out, or for how many per day that they're operating? So I just need more clarification on what is a violation.
A violation is if any scooter that is leased or rented for the use.
So up to $500 maximum fine would be per scooter.
Yeah, yes ma'am, because what that does, that rental puts that scooter back on the street, so our police department is again concerned for the safety of the people on the roadway and the user of that scooter. And that's the issue.
Thank you, I just wondering what that was.
Okay.
Mr. Stokes?
Just to start with a point of clarification, you mentioned a mother with a child on her back on a skateboard. Was that meant to be a e-scooter, or was she on a skateboard?
No, she's on a scooter. Yeah,
Okay. So I think there's a very prevalent safety issue. I think a lot of these safety issues we have with bicycles as well. We have with skateboards. We have with, everything that's defined in section 31-5. So that was my other question is these e-scooters, motorized scooters running stop signs, should they be treated the same as a bike since they are covered in the same of section 31-5 of our ordinances? So there should be some policing power that we have to, hey, you want a stop sign on a bike, it's technically, you're not supposed to do that. Same thing, it should be the same thing with the e-scooter, with them being treated the same in our code of ordinances. I'm going to follow up. This is my second time speaking on the subject, so this is my last time speaking. I think that these scooters support traversing the city, just like bikes, just like electric bikes, just like skateboards. I think that there are prevalent issues that were all brought up this evening. This has nothing to do with Mr. DeWitt's business. This has got to do with just the scooters in themselves, in my opinion, being treated the same as bicycles, which they're coded the same. If we put a moratorium on these, why are we should have a moratorium on bikes. They're in the same section. They're causing the same issues, in my opinion. And so I think that to put a moratorium on these, they're not vehicles, they're the scooter. If there is one, I couldn't find it for the policy for bike rental. There's a policy for scooter rentals, but I could not find a policy for bike rentals, and now we're going to put a policy on scooter rentals. I'm worried about that slippery slope. If we do it, I think we got to do it for all rentals, and not just focus on an individual. And with that is my second time speaking on the issue.
Well, the Florida statutes certainly, so the Florida legislature certainly views these micromobility devices and electric scooters as something very separate and different from a bicycle because they've crafted statutes specifically carved out for these devices only. So they've recognized that there are these devices that need legislation. They've drafted that and they've implemented that. Now, they've left municipalities a lot of room to regulate under our home rule regulatory powers to control and regulate the use of our roadways and to take certain steps in the act of public safety interest. But these devices, e-scooters, electric personal assistive mobility devices, micro-mobility devices, they have their own set of statutes, each one of them. So they are treated differently than bicycles, but I know that in our area, in our jurisdiction, we see the bicycles and the micromobility devices and the e-scooters all traveling in the same roadways, especially down here on the local downtown area. We see them all using the bike lanes, using the lane of traffic, and going north, south, east, west. So I agree that it seems to us that it's all the same. But they truly are different and treated differently in the Florida statutes. And I would have to rely on the Florida statutes for a lot of the language that we were to implement on a permanent ordinance. But, you know, the regulation safety concerns for me were given to me by the police department, who of course have the greatest concern in terms of keeping the roadways safe. So I've never heard the police department come to me about safety concerns about bicycle riders, but suddenly this has certainly caused them great concern. And that's why we began the briefing topics with you, why we had that briefing, and why council gave me the direction to have a temporary moratorium so that we can get a handle on this. Not that we don't want to work with Mr. DeWitt, we do. And I want to make these proper and legal so I can go rent one and ride them too. But yeah, they are somewhat different than the bicycles, at least in the statutes, and the way that our police department is facing some of the situations they've encountered.
Can I follow up, or would you like to?
Go for it.
So, briefly, I think if they are defined separately in the Florida statutes, then we should adjust how they're defined in section 31-5. That's all, because in 31-5, it's bicycle and bicyclist, electric personal assistive mobility devices, micromobility devices, and motorized scooter regulations. They're all regulated the same in our code, so if we want to go by the Florida statutes, then we should change our ordinances as well.
Absolutely. I would need to change some of the sections of our current code while we're implementing and adopting a new ordinance directed towards these devices. I would certainly need to revise some of the current that we have on the books. Yeah.
I don't see any other lights on the board. I want to, Mr. Mesa? Real quick, please.
Yes, real quick. I know Ms. Sandy brought it up. Is there a way that we can hold any more scooter businesses until we figure this out without just putting a temporary moratorium? And yeah, so.
Well, I would be hesitant to recommend that to the council because, and Mrs. Dumont actually alluded to it, is that we're permitting one, but we're preventing others. So that's a really dangerous path to follow in commercial enterprises, to prevent all others from operating but allowing one to operate. Again, this city has the legal authority to engage in and enter into all these safety measures. And the city council so far has directed me to frame it as a temporary safety measure, essentially. But no, we would cause the city some potential problem for other businesses that would like to open, and they would challenge us on allowing one business and one business only to operate.
Thank you. I think we're very lucky to live and govern in a city where our big issue of the day is e-scooters. We could certainly be having much worse issues, so I appreciate everybody's diligence in studying this issue, especially our new council members, for going back and watching the briefing. I was I'm very much in support of e-scooters, and I think that this is definitely an avenue that we should pursue. I think Mr. DeWitt has been a solid business owner in our community and has proven that. However, I do see the need to put the safety of our public paramount as we examine this issue a little more to make sure that it works within our city and that we have, that we give our police department the tools that they need, at the same time being able to support this business, the small businesses that are hopefully going to be positively impacted by a solid and thorough implementation of governance for our e-scooters. So I hope that if this moratorium does pass, that we move with a quickness and not only with a quickness, not discounting the amount of work and research that's going to go into it, but also working with the business owner. He has had some experience operating these already. It's been a trial run for him. So I would like to, I think that's what I'm hearing from the council is this is something we'd like to see with the proper rules and regulations in place. So I don't see any other lights. So Madam Clerk, can I get a roll call? And a vote yes is a vote in support of the moratorium.
Councilmember Dumont,
Yes.
Golding,
Yes.
Jansen,
Yes.
Mesa,
Yes.
Nichols,
Yes.
Stokes,
No.
Mayor Hoffman.
Yes. Motion carries. 1 year moratorium, hopefully less.
Potentially less, yes. And we will work diligently, as you mentioned there. We will.
Thank you. I'm going a little bit out of order before you guys close up your books. We had one person come who was apparently given misinformation about the start time of our meetings, which is understandable considering for years we've started at 7, and since we've reinstituted our in-person meetings have started at 6. So I'd like to give Miss Ellen Foley 3 minutes to address the council. If you want to, so hope you guys will indulge me in making this right for her. You should have received a packet from Ms. Foley earlier today. And no, that's still on 11 hours. Mr. Pro Tem, if you will go ahead, you can come up to the podium. We're using an iPhone stopwatch, so Mr. Nichols will hold up his hand when you have about 10 seconds left. So go ahead and give us your name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes to address the council.
Okay, so my name is Ellen Foley, and I live at 4235 Marsh Landing Boulevard in Jacksonville Beach. And I am a croquet player. And I came here last year and the year before. I recognize some of you, and I know there's new members on the council, Fernando, and I'm glad I can see your names. Corey, you moved up, and then we have Mayor Hoffman. So it's a change, and it's really nice to see new faces. But I'm here because I believe in this game of croquet. And I would love to see this game become a public croquet court. It's one court with the public golf course that we have at Jacksonville Beach. The two really go together. Croquet is like an amenity to golf. In fact, one of the games we play is golf croquet. And it's a beautiful game. And I would really like to see this happen predominantly over by the golf putting green. It's beautiful. And that's the kind of grass we need for croquet. It's mowed and then it's rolled and it's velvety green and it's just really flat. And that's what we need for, I see that you do have your folders, right? You did get them? Okay. So that's what I wanted to present to you tonight. And I don't know, Mike, there you are. Okay. And I was looking for Jason. It's back of me. I met with Jason too. So anyways, they just go hand in hand, the two games. The two sports are beautiful together. And so I just believe in that we just need a little croquet right this very minute. Now it's in the golf course and wickets in the lawn. We need a little croquet right this very minute. We need a public croquet court today. I hope you will take care of pushing this forward. I would love to come back again, but I hope you will keep it on your agenda. I've talked to Mike, and I've been in touch with Jason, and I brought you some sweets from Sonati Bakery. And they are, I think you'll love them. I hope you do. You each get one. Just to remind you that this game is very dear. And you know, I think our country is in need of that. And why not have it in Jacksonville Beach? The first public croquet on the Northeast Coast, and have it up here. And because Sarasota has taken over on the West Coast. That's great for them, but let's put it here, okay? And make it available for all people so that we can bring all people together, okay? So happy holidays, and that's what my message was for you. And sorry to take up your time because I know how important this whole thing about the scooter is. I know it's
Croquet and scooters, it's been a day. Thank you, and we apologize for the misinformation earlier. Thank you for coming out tonight. Before we finish, we do have a special council meeting next week, Monday the 28th. So just make sure you have that on your radar. At the end of our, I'm sorry, you're good. You can go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. Thank you. So at the end of, after we take our vote, we'll have an opportunity to just kind of go down the line if any council members want to make any announcements or no new discussion or votes or anything like that, but just to give you guys an opportunity if you want to say anything to council members in the forum of a public meeting. And I will say Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. Thanks you guys for all of your work this year, and we will see you next Monday.